silent. No radio contact.
Helios 522, do you read? Over.
What would you do if a passenger plane was flying silently over a major city with no response from the cockpit and someone unknown at the controls? Pause. Quote, incoming. Air traffic control radio call. 522, do you read? Over. Worm. A commercial jet circles above Athens for hours, carrying over 100 people, but no one answers. Fighter jets are scrambled, and what pilots see inside the cockpit raises more questions than answers. And in the final moments, a single figure appears at the controls, but by then, it is already too late. But to understand how a modern passenger plane became a silent mystery in the sky, we need to go back to where it all began. It is the morning of August 14th, 2005. Helios Airways Flight 522 prepares for a routine journey from Cyprus to Athens. A short flight, just about 90 minutes. 121 people on board, families, couples, crew members, all expecting a normal trip. The weather is clear, the aircraft is ready, and nothing seems out of the ordinary. Passengers settle into their seats. Crew members go through familiar procedures. In the cockpit, the pilots complete their standard checks. Everything appears perfectly normal. But just minutes after takeoff, small warning signs begin to appear. Have you ever noticed how major incidents often begin with something small, something easy to overlook? Just minutes after takeoff, as Flight 522 climbs higher into the sky, an alarm suddenly sounds in the cockpit. It is the takeoff configuration warning. Now, here is the strange part. This alarm is designed to activate on the ground, not in the air. The pilots are confused. They double-check their systems. They review their settings. But nothing seems obviously wrong. So they do what any trained crew would do. They reach out to ground engineers for assistance. But communication is not smooth. Instructions are repeated. Questions go unanswered. Clarity is missing. And then, another alert appears. A master caution warning. Now the situation becomes more complicated. 2 different alarms, no clear explanation, and increasing uncertainty inside the cockpit. Meanwhile, inside the cabin, passengers remain mostly unaware. There is no panic. No clear announcement explaining what is happening. Everything still feels routine, but it is not. Because while the pilots are focused on troubleshooting technical alerts, something far more serious is quietly developing inside the aircraft. And here is where it gets interesting. The issue was not just the alarms themselves, it was what they were distracting the crew from noticing. And that unnoticed detail would soon change everything. While the pilots struggled to understand what was happening, something far more serious was unfolding quietly inside the aircraft. Picture this. You are seated on a plane, mid-flight, and suddenly oxygen masks drop from above. No clear explanation. No immediate communication from the cockpit. Just silence. On Flight 522, this is exactly what happened. Passengers reach for their masks. Crew members follow procedure. But something is different. The aircraft continues climbing. And then, communication from the cockpit stops completely. No updates. No instructions. No response. Air traffic control tries to reach the pilots. Again and again. Nothing. And yet, the plane keeps flying. This is because the aircraft is now operating on autopilot, continuing along its programmed route toward Athens. Think about that for a moment. A fully functioning aircraft, flying steadily through the sky, but with no active communication from those in control. As time passes, the situation becomes more concerning. The plane does not land. It does not change course. Instead, it begins circling above Athens in a holding pattern. Below, millions of people go about their day, unaware of what is unfolding overhead. From the outside, the aircraft appears normal. But inside, something is clearly wrong. And now, authorities are faced with a critical decision. because a silent aircraft over a major city is not something that can be ignored. As the plane drifted silently above one of Europe's largest cities, authorities had to make a critical decision. What happens when a passenger aircraft stops responding completely? Authorities turn to the only option they have left. Fighter jets are scrambled. Within minutes, Greek Air Force pilots are airborne, heading toward the silent aircraft. As they approach the plane, everything looks normal from a distance. No visible damage, no external issues. But as they get closer, the situation becomes deeply unsettling. Inside the cockpit, they see the co-pilot slumped over the controls, unresponsive. The captain is not visible. And in the cabin, passengers sit motionless. No signs of activity, no reaction to the presence of the jets flying just meters away. It is as if time has frozen inside the aircraft. Then, something changes. A figure appears in the cockpit. Moving, alive. The fighter pilots try to communicate. They signal visually. They attempt to make contact, but there is no response. No radio communication. No clear indication of control. Just silence and uncertainty. Now you might be wondering, who was this person? How did they get into the cockpit? And most importantly, what were they trying to do? Because at this point, the aircraft had been in the air far longer than planned. Fuel levels were becoming critical. Time was running out. But the biggest question remained: who was that person in the cockpit, and what were they trying to do? Remember the mysterious figure in the cockpit. Investigators would later uncover his identity. It was not one of the pilots. It was a flight attendant, Andreas Prodromou, a last-minute addition to the crew. But here is what makes this detail even more significant. He had pilot training. He understood aircraft controls, and in those final moments, he was trying to regain control of the situation. But by then, the aircraft had been flying for nearly 3 hours, far longer than its scheduled 90-minute journey. Fuel levels had dropped to a critical point, and despite his efforts, the situation could not be reversed. So the question becomes, what caused this entire chain of events? Investigators focused on a small but crucial detail: a single switch. The aircraft's pressurization system had been set to manual during maintenance checks, and it was never returned to automatic. This meant that as the plane climbed, the cabin did not maintain normal air conditions. Gradually, oxygen levels inside the aircraft dropped. The effects were subtle at first, then more serious, until eventually, the crew became unable to respond, and the aircraft continued flying without active control.